Hello, today I want to talk about my new audio engine, which now lives in one file called external.c. This is a complete rewrite of the Mario 64 audio engine. Most of this is remade from the ground up with an implementation that has almost the exact same engine support with some upgrades. The first great advantage of this is that this has around 60 to 70% reduced time, meaning MIDI playback is now around 3 times as fast, which is very nice. That was my main goal with this, to make this faster and to make this less fucked, because this is also one thing in the original Mario 64. It is very clear that around 3 or 4 programmers wrote this at different points and they were not communicating with each other. So like every variable has like 2 or 3 duplicates. Data is pasted back and forth without ever using it properly. And this gets rid of all of that. Now this is all in one file. That might seem insane to some people, but there's a good reason for it. And that is, if you look at this, putting it all in one file puts this in one compilation unit, which means this is one continuous block of code, which is very good because this is around 12 kilobytes of code. The N64 has 16 kilobytes of code cache, meaning we can run this entire thread without ever running any external library function and never get a cache miss. This whole thing can run without ever getting a cache miss, which is awesome. That is what you want on the N64. The vanilla code needed around 48 kilobytes, which is of course 4 times as much, so you could not have fit it into one block of cache. Now, yes, there's a lot of deleted bloat. This bloat was pretty bad and led to some bugs in Mario 64 that you can actually observe yourself. Because there were so many different ways to handle volume. There were probably like 6 or 7 variables that influenced a single sound's volume. I think I reduced it to 3 or 4 or something like that. I don't actually remember. But because of that, what happens in the vanilla game is that there is a bug with the caps. When you collect the caps and then lose a cap and do like Koopa race or like a warp or something, the sound that you get is different in every version. Like in some, I think there's no sound, and some you have permanent cap music, and one you have permanent race music. It is weird. That is of course not an issue anymore. Now there's also tons of new features with this. So yes, this is a quarter of the code size, but also this has a lot more features. One you see right here, we now have a global audio pitching. We did not have this in the vanilla Mario 64. Much more significantly, this engine can handle 32 notes at the same time instead of 16. So a lot more stuff can happen at the same time audio-wise. I need this for some of my levels, where a background song might be playing and then like a secondary song is fading in. You guys maybe remember the Piranha Plants from Worms Fortress, stuff like that. I have a few more complex music tracks that kind of need it. This saves a ton of RAM because there's a lot less useless buffers that do not do anything. So that's great. Sound effect pitching is supported. Now you might think, hey, the red coins already support this, you didn't do anything. Okay, the red coins did support it, but the red coins are actually a program that executes within a sound script. It's like a program inside the sound engine that, you know, just program the engine, please. You don't want to do that for every sound that you need pitched. That would be not great in my opinion. It would take a lot of work to do that for every sound if you were to implement this in the music instead of in the engine. So we're just going to do it in the engine. It makes everyone's life easier. We got different volume limiters. Now you might wonder what that is. Let me see. 60 volume, for example. That's not what it's called. Cap. Here. End music cap and they play 0 volume, volume cap, play 0 target volume. So this already kind of exists in vanilla Mario 64, but it is done in a really weird way that I don't like at all. And so we have stuff like this. Update player 0 volume is now a callback function that happens when sequence play starts or ends, which of course is a lot better. because now you have this happen once per player disabling instead of every tick, and this happens at 240 ticks a second. Never move functionality that you rarely need into a tick function. That is bad for performance. We got session preloads. A session in Mario 64's audio engine kind of means when you enter a level, a session starts, and every time you switch area, another session starts. And then when you play a different song, then the session is still going, but it's switching to this new song. That means you have runtime load, so the audio might stutter for a frame or two to load that sequence in, which of course that's not ideal. In this engine you can just preload it whenever you feel. You can define this in the session settings, which is great. We can get rid of all the lag that happens mid-game runtime. The only place where they didn't do this is Big Boo's Haunt with the merry-go-round. They do kind of preload half the sequence there, I think. I don't remember how it worked. We also have much reduced level load times. This is kind of bizarre if you look at this, but so there's a lot of stuff you have to set up the first time you run audio, like you have to load all the stuff. And if I remember correctly, Mario 64 does this every time you enter an area, but really you only need to reset the audio session in my engine, which, as you can see, like, it's just 2 small loops, and then this doesn't matter. We have a new audio allocator that uses the whole space. If you've seen this, you see Audio Arena. This is kind of like a messed up thing I did. This is an allocator that only works specifically for audio. As usual, the more specialized your use cases, the more assumptions you can bake into your code to make the code run even better. Okay, this scale is not that specialized, but where's my structure audio arena? Please, I want to show the people. Yeah, it's this simple. It's just kind of like a pool where you can go too deep. Too deep makes sense because these are the temporary allocations. These are the session allocations. And then 4 temporary allocations is enough because at most you can have 3 sequence players. So when, yeah, it will work. Actually, I think I only have 2. This is fine either way. It works for my game. We have cache invalidation. What does that mean? Pretty dirty exclusive. So this, every time you use it, it saves you 1 memory read. Well, with the 4 obviously saves 4 memory reads. So this does cost a few instructions, but it makes the memory throughput a lot less. So this actually saves a decent chunk of performance to do. You should do this as much as you can in your N64 games. There's a roundup here because of weird technical reasons that I cannot go into right now. And of course, I talked about this before. We now have 2 sounds per sound bank instead of 1 per sound bank. And this is moved to the game thread because it should be game thread functionality. What does that mean? It means in the vanilla game, a Goomba and another Goomba, they are going to interrupt each other constantly because they're part of the same sound bank. Here you can have 2 of each coexist peacefully without interrupting each other. There's some priority sorting, but now there's basically no more sound effect interrupts. There's no guarantee I didn't break anything. With a rewrite this big, actually there's basically guaranteed that I did break something. I already had to fix 3 or 4 bugs I ran into after this. Would not be surprised if there were 4 or 5 more bugs. So that's it. That's all I wanted to talk about. Bye bye.